I'm CK. A week or so ago I did a haunting bat for Halloween. Now I've got a Halloween pumpkin which will probably be released about on Thanksgiving in the US, even though I'm not sure what date Thanksgiving is. But it'll be close enough. It's another Whadda kit for practice soldering, and I hope you enjoy the video. The box looks like it's got some through-hole LEDs, and then there's some solder points along the way, which is probably for current limiting resistors and some other things. We've got a big LED up here too, looks like. LED kit, seasonal soldering gadget, soldering level 3, that's interesting. Not level 1, 25 orange LED, flickering candle effect, extra high intensity LED on top, takes a 9-volt battery. It's a soldering kit. Bunch of LEDs, battery box, bunch of transistors, there's the bright LED, some screws and spacers, a switch, some electrolytic caps, and there are the current limiting resistors, so it looks like a simple oscillating circuit with the transistors and capacitors. So let's see what we got inside. Let's see if I can get the box open without tearing it up. Again, the Whadda boxes are good because they're a little sleeve on top of a cardboard box, so you can use the box for many different kinds of kits. Helps your inventory management. Let's see what's in here. We've got a Velleman battery box fabricated in Taiwan. Here's the circuit board. That looks rounder than that. It's round. Pumpkin round. On the back we've got, it's a single layer board, copper traces, so not too particularly special. Switch goes here, looks like battery pads go here. Resistors all the way along, transistors, capacitors. The values are not listed on the board, so we will have to have a build guide of some sort, or at least a bill of materials to figure out where things go. Velleman Pumpkin 1, 4, 5, tick 1. Okay. And here's our piece of paper. First we'll get this box ready for recycling. All the warnings required by the EU. And then on the back here we've got a skeleton. We're not going to do anything with skeleton, but here's the schematic. Looks pretty straightforward. Oh, one thing I did want to look at on the back here is, can we see on the LEDs don't have a plus sign, but they do have a dark shading on the cathode side, on the negative side. So the long lead, the positive lead, will go on the non-shadowed side. So that's pretty easy to understand. Just dump all the parts into this parts tray. Oh, let me back the camera back off. You probably couldn't even see what I was talking about there because I didn't back the camera off again. Ah, well. Do that again. I may cut out the other one, or I may keep it in. There's little shadow areas right there where the negative side goes. Then we dump all these guys out. All the resistors are the same value. I'm going to assume there's no reason for them to be different. Let's look at the color bands, and they are all, oh, no, they are not all the same. Huh, interesting. So they are different values, so be careful when you're putting it together. Here we've got some 547 transistors, and these may be 548s. No, they're all 547s. I wonder why they cut them into two strips. Just wondering logistically. I always think about how people package their kits. Let's take my LED buddy, also from Velleman Whadda, and see. These look yellow. Are they yellow or orange? They're yellow. Then we've got this high intensity one to be the flickering candle. See how bright this is and how much voltage it draws. Oh no, that is orange and it's only 2.2 volts. Huh. I mean, these guys are probably 2.1. I didn't look before. Oh, these are 2.4. Huh, interesting. So they're higher voltage than the flickering candle one. So put that away. And we'll get the soldering iron heated up and put this thing together. It doesn't look too difficult, but it does look like it's a fun little assembly project. As is typical, we will be doing the resistors first, and we'll do the 10Ks first. And how many of them are there? R1 through R6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Come on, out of the tape, you silly things. Let's see, we'll start with R1. See how... Oh, so we're going to be soldering on this side. We're not going to solder on this side. There's no solder pads there because it's single layer, of course. So instead of soldering on the opposite side from where the component goes, we're going to be soldering on the same side. Now that fits in very well. So let me do the first one, where I pick up a piece of solder, grab my soldering iron, and see how this is going to go. Now one thing you're going to want to be careful of, I can see it right here, a number of these pads are connected, so where there are a couple, well there's that one, so you want to make sure when you're soldering here you only solder at the hole you're working on and don't accidentally, see the solder tries to bleed over there, so you don't want to let it fill that hole in. Just be careful and be aware more than anything else. Yeah, that's soldered up just fine, and all the other resistors are going to be doing pretty much the same thing, so not much more to say. So I will put the playback into fast motion and probably cut some of it out, but it's time for you to enjoy resistor time. That's resistor time for today. And what do they want us to do now? They want us to do the electrolytic caps next. They're all 10 microfarad. And there is a plus sign very clearly on the board. Now we're not going to be able to put these all the way down. Typically, I put them flush to the board, but since we're soldering on this side of the board, we're going to have them up a little bit so we can get solder underneath it. I'm going to try and get them about the same height, even though I think I've already failed, but that's okay. It's the backside, nobody will see it but us. And the positive side alternates with the negative side. So see, the stripe is on this side on this one, and it's on that side on that one. So just make sure you get your plus side where it needs to be. I've probably got these a little higher up than they really need to be, but I'm being safe. And again, let's take a look at the battery box, because that'll actually be a guide for us on how high they should be. See how high the battery box is going to go, like here. And as you can see, it's much higher than what I've just done on these condensers. Capacitors, don't call them condensers. It's not 1960 anymore. I'm sorry, I'm an old guy, so I have some old guy language sometimes for components. Now we're going to kind of get the solder and the soldering iron under. And we're going to make sure we don't rest our soldering iron on the resistors we've already put in place. Pretty simple. Just make sure you don't touch components with your iron while you're down underneath here. There's those fellas. Now we're going to put all the transistors in, and again, because we're doing a lot of oscillating back and forth, there's 6 of them. And 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And don't try and pull them out of this assembly tape. This tape is designed to be, loaded into a machine, and the machine pulls it out of the tape. You are not that machine. If you try and pull them out, you'll get frustrated, bend some leads, maybe even damage a component. So just clip them free. Now this is going to be a little, we'll take the middle leg back a little bit. I'm not going to set all of these in place and then do them. Actually, yeah, I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm going to set it like I'm going to do each transistor itself, simply because of the way these are. We're soldering on this side of the board. Oops. See, and I do want to have a little bit of, raise the pumpkin a little bit off the board so I can get a little bit of the legs through, like so. And the pumpkin will keep it, the foam will keep it from resting back down and pushing the legs back. But again, pretty simple. Now it's really important that you don't touch your soldering iron to the transistor. Transistors and diodes are probably the most heat sensitive component you work with. And of course, I'm also making sure on all of these that the flat side of the transistor is facing the flat side of the printing on the circuit board. Being a little adventurous here, I'm doing 2 at a time. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 1 leg of each, and then put them all on, and then solder all the rest of the legs at the same time, because I wanna. Now this one, again, we're got to be a little precise with your soldering iron, because you're going between the resistor and these legs. So you want to make sure, again, you don't touch the resistor with either the tip of your soldering iron or the barrel. The barrel's very hot too. Sometimes we forget that. And I've melted capacitors doing that, actually. I was doing a guitar amp a couple of years ago, and I was careless and I melted two big fat capacitors. Made me grumpy because I didn't have spares on hand. I had to order them in weight. So just be careful. Okay, now I'll do the rest of the legs. There's the transistors. Now we're going to do all the yellow LEDs. Yellow, Gil, Yaun, Gleb, Glue, Kelitin, Amarillo, Amarello, Giallo, in all the EU languages, just in case you were wondering. So I'm going to put all of these on, and then, well, actually what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to show you what I do with these, because we want these really flat on the pumpkin head, because if they're a little cockeyed, they will look a little bit funny. So what I will be doing after I get them all through the board is I will do one leg like so, and as you can see, that LED is a little cattywampus. It's not straight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press on it with my index finger and then reheat that solder, and you saw it move, right? Let it cool, and that flattened it right on up. It didn't actually flatten it up. I don't think the base of these is flat. Golly. So I will just be creative. There. No, that's not flat. Gosh, these are not going flat. They're not, the bases of them are not flat. But that's what you want to do. You want to go through and align them as well as you can. I have one little lead sticking through here. And once you've got it aligned the way you want it to, then you can solder the other leg and then trim them off. And I think that's why we've got this as a level 3 for three reasons. One, because we're soldering on the same side of the board as we are mounting many of the components. We've got the transistors all real close to each other, requiring some delicate soldering. And then we've got all these LEDs that we want to get flat to the board. So there's quite a bit going on here, more than a simpler board, but it's not so bad, as you can see. I'm going to do the two eyes first because I don't want to have them all stuck in at the same time, because then I confuse myself. We don't want to put a yellow one up there. That's where the flickering candle goes. So again, now I'm going to do one leg on each of these. And now I'll solder all the rest of those legs, and then I'll put all the LEDs on. And now that you've seen me do those, again, we'll go in fast motion and probably cut some of it out. And there are all the LEDs in pretty much good shape. Because they're not completely flat on the bottom, it was a little more of a pain than usual, and I didn't want to mess with it too much. They're good enough, and a pumpkin jack-o'-lantern should be a little snaggly tooth. So we're putting the switch in here. Now we're going to put the top LED on. And, oh, by the way, they gave us one extra yellow LED, which is nice of them. Now we're going to be doing, I don't know, they want this all twisted around. So it's kind of hanging down. They want it kind of like, let me get my bendy pliers. You don't need bendy pliers. A pair of needle nose will work just fine. They want it kind of go like that, kind of so it's dangling. Just remember which side is the long side, and also remember the flat side. There's a little flat side on the base of the LED, and that is the cathode side, the short side, the negative side. So it'll kind of dangle down like that, I guess. I'm not a pumpkin artist. Trim that off. Straighten it up so it kind of lines up with the nose. Yeah, that looks fine. Next, we're going to do the battery box. And looking to see how I'm putting this on. I'm going to look. The screws are very visible from the front on the battery box, which is not as aesthetically pleasing as it could be, and they want to put spacers on here. I wonder why they want to put the spacers on here. That doesn't... seems a bit overkill. But I'll do what they say. Failing any reason not to do what they say, may as well do what they say. Put that screw on there. And then the spacer on there like that. That's not going to be enough grip, guys. Well, I guess it may be. Oh, I see why they're doing it, so you can kind of make it a stand. I get it. Get my little screwdriver. Just too small for this, but we'll make do. Screw this in there a little bit. Remember, this is steel going into the plastic of the battery box, so you don't want to tighten it as tightly as you can, because you'll just strip the plastic out. Let me get the wires out from under there. Oops. Wires out. Screw up. Spacer on. Into the little hole here. Snug that one down. Just firmly. Again, not gorilla tight, not as tight as you can get it, but that'll allow it to kind of stand up when we're done. Maybe. Yeah, it'll stand up when we're done. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put the black wire here and the red wire here, and as you see, there's no holes there. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some solder and we're going to make a puddle on the pads, like so. And I'm going to take my red wire, I'm going to kind of bend it around here so it's really out of the way. I could trim the wires, length of the wires too, but I'm not going to do that. And now we're going to lay the wire on top of that little solder pool I'd made. Heat it up again. Cover the wire pretty well. Let it cool. Then let go, and it's in there very firmly. Do the same with the black wire. Heat the solder up again. Let it cool before we move. There. All good. Now, we should be ready to go. Let me go get a rechargeable 9-volt. Now, where did I have that? I had one just today for some reason or other. I'll be back in a second. Probably a camera skip coming. Rechargeable 9-volt. I only use rechargeables in the workshop because I'd go through too many batteries and that'd be such a waste. So the switch is off right now, hopefully. That's what it says. I'll put the battery in. Now I'm going to turn this light off. And now turn the switch on. And there we go. Blinky, blinky. Oh, they're all in sequence. Huh. I thought they were separate. And we got the little glowy candle on the top. And I'll set it down this way so the side camera... Oh, they are blinking differently. The nose... No, they're out of see. I'm sorry, I was confused by the way the light was shining down there. Make sure that, as you can see from the side camera here, that you can just set it, leave it on your nightstand or in a window, and you have a nice little jack-o'-lantern you can use for Halloween, or in this case, because I did this kind of late, we can do this for Thanksgiving. And it's a good little kit, a little more challenging than other Whadda kits, but in the end, not very difficult, was it? And I hope you enjoyed the video.